What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another video. Today we're doing the review of John Wick. I'm a big fan of the John Wick franchise. Well, I wouldn't say a big fan, but I'm a moderate fan. I enjoyed the first three movies. I thought they were very unique, very fun. You know what I mean? In a world where a lot of movies tend to be remakes and like rehashes of stuff we've seen before, I feel like the John Wick franchise was something that in the last decade was actually quite original. Quite a lot of fun to watch. Of course, there's always the suspend your disbelief for some of the stuff that happens, but it's always a really fun time to watch a John Wick movie. Now, in terms of John Wick Chapter 4, I went and watched it last night and I enjoyed it for the most part. I will say that I haven't watched the other three for quite a while, so maybe I should have watched the other three to have more of a reference point. Because I've seen a lot of people saying, oh, well, this is the best one. And maybe going on nostalgia and remembering what I remember from the others, to me, this isn't the best one. But that's just my humble opinion. But I still think this is a pretty good movie, to be honest. It gives me a bit of the Top Gun Maverick vibe from last year, something that everybody loved, and I was a bit more like, it was alright, like it was good. It wasn't the best movie of the year sort of deal. That's the vibe I'm getting at the moment. In terms of my expectations going into it, I was expecting a good action movie where it wouldn't be the most realistic, but it'll be fun to watch, and I think I got what I paid for in that circumstance. But without further ado, we're going to get into all the good stuff that happened in this movie. But the best thing is obviously the fights. Like, the fights are always the best. Like, watching John Wick kill 100 dudes with every weapon ever in existence is great. Like, I'm pretty sure in this movie, they went into a museum and picked up every weapon, and they're like, yeah, you're going to get a kill with everything. Like, he gets killed with, like, the trademark pistol he always has. He got killed with, like, an AR. There was even a dragon's breath shotgun. Shit was, like, firing out fire with the pellets. It was crazy. Like, he has, like, samurai sword fights. Even some of the other characters have like samurai sword fights too. It was pretty awesome. Knife fights. There's even like hatchets and stuff involved. It was crazy. Like, every weapon you could think of is in this movie, I'm pretty sure. Also, I feel like they took everything they learned from the first three installments of John Wick and they kind of just expanded it. Like, if you remember that scene, I think it's in John Wick 3 where they're kind of having that fight in between all the glass. There's a very similar scene to that in this movie where they kind of do the same thing but just better, and I feel like they did a lot of great fight scenes and choreography. Like, there's one scene in this where they have a top-down view of John Wick just running through the house and just shotgunning fools with his dragon's breath shotgun. That was pretty awesome, to be fair. And the worst part is they show the dude creating the bullets for it beforehand, and he just picks it up of man's dead body and starts firing back. In terms of another good thing, the choreography, like the fight choreography, is always good. It's always great, in fact. Like, it's almost like watching like some kind of prime Russian ballet or some shit, bro. I don't know how to describe it, but the choreography is always beautiful. It's like this an amazing sequence of action. It's like they seem to try and make it go for as long as they can, and it always pulls off very well. And they do it very multiple times in this movie. I have to give credit where credit's due to all of the actors. I think the actors did a really good job. Obviously, Keanu Reeves as John Wick is always fun. It's almost like playing himself in terms of the character. Like, I feel like he doesn't say a lot. And John Wick barely speaks in the movie anyway, so it fits him very perfectly. I feel like Donnie Yen came in and played Kane and did a pretty good job. I'm not the most familiar with his work, but I feel like he did a really good job with that character. They brought in Hiroyuki Sanada. I had to Google his name because I saw him in Bullet Train, and he basically plays a very similar character in Bullet Train that he does to this movie, and that's really fun as well. They got the guy who plays it, Bill Skarsgård or whatever his name is, to be the villain in this movie. Not my favorite character, but I thought it was decent. And of course, they bring back some characters, some favorites from the other movies. Obviously, Lance Reddick, R.I.P. They brought his character was back in this movie. Winston is obviously also in this movie. The homeless dude played by CSI man, what's his name, Lawrence Fishburne, or Fishburne, whatever his name is. He's obviously in this movie as well. I think they have a great cast of characters. I think all the actors did a really good job. Overall, I think this movie is just a fun movie. You know what I mean? Like, you're not gonna be bored. Well, you might be because it's a 3-hour movie, but we'll get into that in a minute. But you're probably not gonna be bored with all the action that's going on. And they split it up pretty well. Like, they have a bit more of a serious scene and then it's straight back into action. It's like kind of stop start at times, but it's also very entertaining stuff. Now we're gonna get into some of the things I didn't like. And like I said, I'm not as high on this movie as some people would be. I did like it, but I still think there is certain things that annoyed me. And the first thing is, obviously, the story is almost non-existent. I feel like the villain isn't really a continuation on from anything else, right? I'll talk about the ending in a minute. I don't want to give spoilers, but it's like throughout the whole John Wick franchise, he's kind of building up to fight like the table, because the table are the people that sit on top of everybody, and they control everything. And the only way John Wick will ever be free from his life is if he defeats them, right? And in this movie, they're fighting like the dude under the table. Like, he's very high up, but he's not on the table, right? He's cool, like, what's he, like the Marquis, the Grand something? Like, it's crazy. It's a weird title he has. He's not just a French dude. John Wick now has to defeat this dude, right? And I'm like, okay, so they're probably gonna make another movie out of this, right? because now when's he gonna fight the table? But I feel like with the ending they went with and all of that, you'll see when you watch it. This will probably be the final John Wick movie, unless they decide to like go back in time or they decide to do a spin-off, which I heard they may be doing a spin-off, but that's neither here or there. We'll talk about that if it happens. Getting back to the point, it does almost strike me that this could have been a standalone movie. Like, you don't need to have watched the first 3 John Wicks to know what the hell's going on this. I feel like the story is almost non-existent. I think they tried at times to kind of show a journey that was going to happen, but they didn't really pay too much mind to like the whole journey, and the ending, it didn't fit with me. The another thing is, this movie is extremely long. It's almost 3 hours. Plus, you have to stay to watch the end credit scene, by the way. There's an end credit scene. Everyone's doing the Marvel now. So, yes, 3 hours. At times, it did feel like 3 hours. I feel like they maybe could have condensed it, but if this is the final movie in the series, then it makes sense for them to do like an epic length movie to kind of round it out. I also feel like some characters aren't really used to their full potential in this. Like, I feel like some characters are introduced. Like, the owner of the Osaka Continental's daughter is in it. They kind of give her a storyline and then she's never seen again. Okay. There's this also other dude who has a dog, and they kind of implement him in here and there, but it kind of just feels like he's a side dish character who's just there. Like, there's no real point for him to be there. He's just hunting down John Wick, and apparently he's attached to GPS to him because he seems to know where he is all the time. But he never really fights him one-on-one. Like, it's never really a confrontation between the two. So it's kind of like, I don't think they used him to their full potential. There's also this really cool old man who's meant to be like the spokesman for the table or whatever. And he holds the final confrontation of the movie. He's like the arbiter, like he's like the overseer of it. And he's also missing a finger, by the way. As so is John Wick. And I feel like they didn't really use his character very well either. I thought it was a pretty cool character. But for the most part, they did use their characters pretty well, in my opinion. Another thing I will say, though, is I know I said you have to suspend your disbelief extremely, like, if it's John Wick, you expect it not to be super realistic. But there was a few moments in this where I'm just like, bruh, you could have, like, at least made the people that... There's a full-on gunfight happening in a club. You know, there's a man with a hatchet sticking out of his forehead. These people have seen this happen. They're seeing people shoot at each other. They're not running out of the club. They're still dancing. What kind of drugs do you have to be on for that not to affect you? But then they make it worse. But towards the end of the fight, they make them all run out. It's very strange. Like, I'm like, why is this happening? This is kind of a theme throughout John Wick films where, like, people are not scared of people shooting at each other. Surely they would be getting hit by stray bullets. But you know what it is. And there's another bit later in the film where they're fighting in the middle of a fucking road, like it's roundabout in Paris. And the cars aren't stopping. It's like the traffic is continuing like normal, and these people are just still shooting and fighting each other, and then random people getting hit by civilian cars. There's one moment where like this Mercedes van hit somebody, and I'm pretty sure they didn't have a driver in it. Just saying, like, when you look at it, they kind of pan to it and there's no driver in it, and it's just like, what's happened here? The last thing I want to say about, like, sort of the bad thing about this movie is I'm not sure if it was fully shot in Paris or if they used green screens at times, but sometimes the backgrounds did look a little not real, like they were poorly green screened in. I don't know if that is a issue with the movie, the cinema I went to, having dog shit equipment, or if that was actually the movie that fucked that up. I'm not 100% sure. Overall, I really enjoyed the movie. Not the ending for me was a bit bittersweet. Like, I'm not 100% happy with the ending. I feel like they could have done it better, especially if this is the last movie they're gonna make on it. But hey, overall, if I'm rating this movie out of 10, I would give it probably I'd give it like a 6.5, maybe a 7. Like, for some reason, this movie just rings to me the same as Baki did, the anime, which is very similar in terms of just a fighting simulator, basically. And right now, in my mind, I'm thinking I prefer the first 3 better than this. I don't know why. Maybe I need to watch all of them again, back to back to back, to see, and I'll probably change my opinion eventually on it. But for me right now, it's probably sitting at like a solid 6.5 out of 10, 65%, 65 out of 100, whichever way you want to rank it. But that is my opinion on this movie. I see that a lot of people enjoyed it. Hey man, it is what it is. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one.